So good morning and welcome. We're back here once again, MMS, live on air, and I'm very pleased to say that our special guest today is Mark Sharp, our business coach.
Thanks very much for having me, John.
You're more than welcome, Mark. Mark, I really wanted to get you in today. One, because I just wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what led you on your journey up to the point where you became a business coach. And then really I just want to kind of ask you a little bit, as we're coming towards the end of the year, going into a new year, what types of focuses and challenges that businesses might be coming up against at the moment, and ways in which you may be able to help or listen, support, etc.
Yeah.
So let's kick it off with yourself. Who is Mark Sharp?
Who is Mark Sharp? What a great question. So, I mean, I sort of go back to sort of my earlier career. I've been blessed and very lucky to be a director of a business since my late teens, so from about 19, and was running various companies over the last 30 years within print, media, marketing, graphic design, and then more lately, construction. So I've had the pleasure of working in various areas, whether that be operational, sales, financial, marketing, and leadership and management. And throughout my career, I've always thoroughly enjoyed working with individuals. So as an example, some of the jobs I've had, bringing people through from a young age, seeing them grow, develop, nurturing that relationship, becoming a bit more of a mentor than a sort of coach, if you like.
Sure.
And I got to a point where about 2 years ago, or probably a little bit longer than that now, I was working within the construction industry, and I'd got to a point where I found throughout my career, whether that was working in the print, which I did for about 20 years, marketing and media and a bit of sort of like graphic design, probably about 5. And then with the construction, it just got to a point where I felt there needed to be a change, but I didn't know what.
Right.
So it was probably a conversation I had with my then coach, because I'd had a couple of coaches myself for about 15 years. And he said, why don't you think about becoming a coach? And it wasn't really something that I'd really thought about. And he sort of said, well, look, you're really good with people. You've kind of had that sort of mentor sort of role within the businesses that you've run and operated. And so I sort of started to think about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, do you know what? Yeah, that sounds a bit like me. So sort of looked into various different opportunities, and because I myself over the last sort of 12 plus years have worked with Action Coach, decided to pursue it through that avenue. So I now work alongside Action Coach as a coach, and I haven't looked back and just thoroughly enjoy it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, whenever I've obviously come across you, it's with very kind of like upbeat, tempo, positive outlook, which I think a lot of people need, whether that's a personal trainer in the gym or whatever that likely it is. So let me just dive a little bit deeper into some of the people that you help.
Yeah.
I've kind of noticed, or something that seems apparent at times, is that it seems to sometimes be two types of business kind of owners. There seems to be those that are very much on it, if you like, very much au fait with their numbers and their figures and where they're going, and have a bit of an idea in terms of where they want to project forward and grow. And then there seems to be others which have fallen into business.
Yeah.
Maybe had a fantastic product, fantastic idea, it's doing very well, it's doing very niche.
Yeah.
But actually, if you then ask them about, a P&L or a budget or a projection, these things seem quite foreign to them. So, do you cover, question number 1, both of those aspects?
Yes.
And then question number 2, how do they differ in terms of the approach?
So, I mean, I work with lots of different sized businesses and different individuals as well. And what I've found over the years that I've been working not only in business myself, because a lot of my training through coaching has been invaluable, but I think more importantly, the 30-year career that I've had myself running various different businesses has probably given me that sort of, I've trod the path. So actually having been there and done it, because I know sometimes people say to me, as a coach, well, what have you done? So I can then start to sort of reel off and explain some of the things that I've achieved in my career. But from a coaching point of view, a lot of the time, John, it comes down to sort of mainly three things in business. There are other aspects, but a lot of the time you can narrow it down to one of three things, which is time, team or money. And what I found in that instance is with the time scenario, a lot of the business owners that I work with, they're working some crazy hours. I mean, you know, some of them are working 80, 90 or even 100 hours a week, which isn't sustainable, as we know. So sometimes it's a case of then looking to reduce their hours down. Some of which they just want to get to a 40-hour week, you know, just a standard 40-hour week. With the money side of things, a lot of the time the misconception is I just want to turn over more money, and the mistake there can be, I've worked with businesses that have scaled their business from say £1 million turnover to 5 million turnover.
Right.
But there's a saying we quite often use, and I've heard it a lot, but I use it a lot too, which is turnover is vanity, but profit is sanity. And I think the thing is if you've taken a business from £1 million turnover to a 5 million turnover, and your profit rate, for argument's sake, on the million was 10% at 100,000 profit, if you've scaled it to 5 million and it's still more or less the same, I mean, that's soul destroying. So what we do is we work with business owners to ensure that if they're going to scale their business, they're going to scale it for the right reasons and not just for the turnover, and making sure that the profit scales at the same rate or if not more. So we've got systems in place to do that. And then last but certainly by no means least is the team side of things. A lot of the time they say that the business quite often bottlenecks. And I often use the analogy that the bottleneck is at the top. And the same in the business, more often than not, the bottleneck is because someone's sitting at the top. So we'll work with business owners to ensure that they've got various systems within the business, to ensure that they're creating cultures within the business, to ensure that the staff have got the same vision as what they've got. Because more often than not, with a business plan or a vision, a lot of the time it sits inside the head of the business owners.
Yeah.
And unless the people that they're employing are mind readers, then they haven't got a clue what that culture or what that vision is. So we help business owners take it from in here to put it down into a plan, and more often than not, getting it across their websites, getting it within the offices, ensuring that everybody knows what's going on. So they're just some of the things that I work with business owners on. And you're quite right, there are two types of business owners. Well, there's probably more than two, but yeah, certainly the two types you've mentioned there. And what I find is, as a business coach, 80% of what I do isn't, your operational, your sales, your marketing and all of that. It's important, but more often than not, it's the mindset of either the business owner or owners or the sort of middle management. So I find that I'm more often not working with that side of things. In other words, the mindset of what they can achieve and having things that they've got goals that they're working towards, because again, more often than not, they're not there either.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at those two types of business owners, we're coming to the end of the year. A lot of people are going to, as I say, have that conversation now about what it is. We've seen the budget which has recently come in. We know the NI situation. We know the minimum wage situation. We know the pressures that are going on to those small to medium businesses.
Yeah.
What would you say to the business owner at the moment that is thinking, okay, I'm going to have to do no pay rises, I'm going to have to cut one member of the team, and is in a mindset of cutting costs and thinking, rightly or wrongly, that is the way to protect the business?
Quite often that is the case, let's cut back so that we can survive. And I've heard this said quite a lot as well, and let's thrive in 25. But if I'm honest, a lot of the time when people are making those sorts of decisions, even large organisations, it's a knee-jerk reaction or a gut instinct, but I always hear business owners saying, well, it's served me well so far. But making those sorts of decisions, if you haven't got the facts, if you haven't got a business plan and you haven't got a strategy in place, then it is a knee-jerk reaction or just an instinct that, it's a gut reaction, let's do this because that's just happened. So what I would say is make sure you've got a plan, whether that's a year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. We use a 90-day plan as well. I mean, the saying is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So breaking that down into a 90-day plan, but having that set week by week, not only for the business owners, but also for everybody in the company, what that will do is it will give them a gauge to aim for. Because what I've found is, unless people have got a gauge to aim for, whether they're through detailed KPIs or even just a one-page business plan, to say, right, this is what we're going to achieve in the next 90 days, which is why, like you say, it's so important now to make sure you do that now, not just because it's the turn of the year. Yes, lots of people make New Year resolutions and they're going to go to the gym and they're going to do this and that, but certainly from a business point of view, yeah, it's a great opportunity to take stock, reflect on what you've achieved in 2024, but then also set your stall out of what you want to achieve in 2025. Because a lot of the time, these knee-jerk reactions are exactly that. So rather than just doing it that way, sit down, plan what you want to achieve, because if what you want to achieve in 2025 you're not going to be able to do without the current staff that you've got, and more importantly investing in more going forward, then knee-jerk reactions and gut instincts just aren't going to cut it.
No. Okay. So is it the same answer for the other business owner, which has had quite a good year, a positive year, is very enthusiastic, wants to grow, wants to double their turnover in the year, and is thinking in that way, but presumably that person, just as much as the other one that's the knee-jerk reaction, still needs to take stock and go through the actual planning correctly to make sure that those goals are viable, or maybe they could do more. Maybe they're pushing themselves too far. Is it the same concept with the 90 days for that?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, you've got two ends of the spectrum here. You've got sort of like the slow and steady type that are sort of like battening down the hatches to ensure that they're going to survive throughout the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And then you've got those that sort of like can be a little bit sort of out there and just think, we're going to go and do, like you say, we're going to double the turnover. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. And it does boil down to making sure that whatever it is that you are planning, you've got an alignment with the other business owners. So if there's multiple directors within the business, but also if you've got a team, that they know what the plans are as well. Because if you're the only person that's saying this is what we're going to achieve and nobody else in the company knows what that is or what it looks like, then it's just not going to work. So in answer to your question, it's just taking stock and making sure that you have got a definitive plan as to what that is, and you've got something to aim for. Because it's like all things, unless you've got that documented down, it kind of works. Quite often I talk to people about the reticular activating system. Familiar with that?
Oh, daily.
Of course you are. Well, let's just call it the RAS for sure, okay? So the way it works is, so my eldest is 22. So about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, he wanted to get a new car. So I said, okay, what are you looking for? So he wanted the Fiesta, okay? So I was like, wow, that's interesting, because when I was probably about 18, 19, my first car was a Fiesta. The difference was mine was a Fiesta RS with the pepper pot alloys. I don't know if you remember those, John, it's in the sort of age. But when I got that, I thought it was great, but then all of a sudden I noticed that everybody else was driving them as well. So I just thought, well, I can't have that. So I got rid of it, and all of a sudden it was as if they just disappeared off the face of the earth. So anyway, coming back to my son, who then said he wanted this Fiesta ST. So he said, no, Dad, I don't want one of them. He said, I want one of these. And he showed me this, I'm going to say, hideous, bright orange Fiesta ST.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah, nice car, but what colour do you want? That's the colour to have. Apparently that was the colour to have. But then all of a sudden, driving around, all I saw was these bright orange Fiestas.
Yeah.
And I thought, how the hell have I missed these? And that's exactly what the RAS is, the reticular activating system. So by having these goals written down, having your business plan documented, and having everything in plain view for everybody in the company, including the customers as well as the staff to see, is the core focus. So it does boil down to making sure, irrespective of whether you're a little bit reserved about what you want to achieve with your business, so you might be thinking about reducing staff levels down, or you think you're going to double the size of your business in 2025, that's great, but you make sure that you document down what it is that you're going to do and you share that with everybody in the company.
Okay. 2 quick questions for you. The first one is, I think when it comes to things sometimes like HR, when it comes to accountants, when it comes to yourself, people are slowly starting to wake up to the fact that actually it's not a cost to the business, it's actually an investment.
Absolutely.
Okay. But for a long time it's been seen as being that. Now, if I have an accountant, I need an accountant for as long as I'm in business.
Yeah.
Do I need a business coach for as long as I'm in business?
Okay, let me answer that by saying a lot of the time people liken coaching because it comes more predominantly from a sporting perspective. So, you know, you've got a football team that you follow, which is
Everton, unfortunately, but yes.
Okay, and they have a coach, right?
Mm.
Okay, now, irrespective of what football team you follow, whether that's a Premiership team or a team that's in the lower leagues, having that coach, having that manager is that important. If that coach or manager was to leave, what would happen to the team?
Mm.
And it's the same if you take it from a personal training perspective as well. I mean, you've got people that are in the gym, and personal trainers will work with all sorts of shapes and sizes of people.
Mm.
But far be it from me to be what I would class as an ambulance chaser with regards to a business that's in so much trouble. They'll be in so much trouble that they're going to A&E. I'd rather be the guy in the gym working with people that are clearly in their prime, that just need those fine tweaks and finesse tweaks.
Okay.
So I work with businesses that are in startup mode, I work with businesses that are sort of in their first few years, but I equally work with businesses that have been running for decades.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yes, the answer to the question is having a business coach throughout the entirety of your career or your business is paramount, because you're always going to be changing the goals, you're always going to be changing the plans. Those 90-day plans, those 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals are going to be evolving. And I always say that the business will always grow to the level of the business owner or owners. So unless the business owners are growing and developing through various personal developments, then that business will stagnate. And if you're not growing, you're dying. I think there's a phrase, when you're green, you grow, when you're ripe, you rot.
Good. So some fascinating stuff there. It's really quite insightful to be thinking along those lines. So just give me a brief example at the moment. First of all, who your newest or one of your newest clients is, you know, why have they come to you, what's the kind of challenges they're facing, which might be a bit of an idea as to their first steps. And then likewise, who's one of your longest standing clients and how has maybe their journey changed within that time?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so one of my clients, he runs a property company in Lanzarote. So most of my clients are mainly local, but this particular client is based in Lanzarote. And his biggest challenge when he came to me, or biggest pain point, was team morale and team motivation. So we worked around what it was that he was currently doing in the business. It was a family run, or is a family run business, so it's been running for about 15, 20 years. Okay. He'd recently taken over in the last year or so as the CEO, but had realised that there was a bit of a shift with the existing team. Obviously him stepping in, there was in his mind an issue with that. So I started to ask him a few questions around what they do currently with regards to team meetings, to boost team morale, what their core culture was, or their company values and beliefs. And there wasn't really anything documented. So when I asked him what he would rate his team back then, when we first started talking out of 10, it wasn't a great score. But more recently, now that he's got the core cultures in place, they've got things put up on the walls of what their vision is and what their beliefs are as a business. The morale with the meetings that they're now having, and they've systemised a lot of the business so the teams are communicating with one another as well, because that wasn't happening. So the breakdown in the communication, or the lack of communication, was one of the core issues. But now that they're all familiar and aware of what the company is going to achieve or is looking to achieve, that means they're all aligned. So then now, I mean, he even said maybe a 10 out of 10, but let's just say a 9, because he doesn't want to call it a 10 out of 10. But I mean, what a turnaround. So I mean, you know, from my point of view, I'm so pleased for him, and obviously he's over the moon. And it's great that he's got that morale within the team now, but I mean, it's completely transformed his business. So I mean, you know, the business is absolutely thriving. I mean, you know, the KPIs and the targets that he's aiming for, they're just smashing them out of the park. So I mean, you know, from my point of view, I'm really happy that the team is where it is now, and he's over the moon, that it's taken that weight off of his shoulders so that he can now relax and focus on working more on the business than just working in the business with the team.
So a lot of early success.
Massive, yeah.
Okay, and who's your kind of longest standing client, or one of your?
So one of my longest standing clients, probably on a more local basis, so they're based in Ware, waste management company. And initially, it was more or less well, it's not one-man band anymore, is it? Solopreneur, we like to call ourselves when we're on our own. But he's now grown his team. His wife now works with him, and he's just recently taken on 2 new people as well. And when we first started talking, he'd come from the background of waste management, but he was new to running his own business. And over the last couple of years, he's evolved the business, he's growing the team, we've implemented systems for him to do that, so he does a lot of his own recruitment. We've recommended accountants to him, marketing individuals, we've recommended HR people to him as well. So he's got that, whether it's internally sort of staff to help him run the business, or those external team members that he can tap into as and when he needs. But the key thing for him was his business was growing at a rate that the scale was going where he wanted it to, but he was struggling to cope with that scale. So he's now got a handle on that. He's now able to take people on and put them in the positions that he now knows what he needs to fill. So he created like an organisational chart of where he was there and then. It didn't take us long, it was literally one box, him. But then what we did is, where do you want your business to be in a year and 3 years? And we created the fictitious organisational chart of what it would look like.
Okay.
And what we've now done is the 3-year plan he's already achieved. But he's quadrupled the size of his business now to what he originally thought it was going to be. He's absolutely smashing it out of the park. It's all on him. It's just a little bit of guidance from me, a little bit of holding him accountable to what he is planning for his business, and just having those weekly meetings where we're just having those conversations, no judgment, just conversations around what he's planned for his business, and me asking him the questions around how that's all going, and giving him a little bit of guidance and support into how to grow his business to the next level and then the next level. So his business was just, where did he want to get it to? So he knew his business was here, he wanted to get it to here, wasn't sure on how to bridge that gap, and that's where I come in.
Wonderful. Mark's really, really good, really interesting stuff, and as I say, we're coming towards the end of the year. The C word is allowed now. And on that aspect, I think a lot of people are going to be having those conversations at the moment. So if anyone's watching this right now and they think, like, Mark, I wouldn't mind having a conversation with him, no obligation conversation, just to see how he might be able to help me or my business. Please have a look into the camera there, or the cameraman, and let them know how they can contact you. Yeah,
absolutely. So I love talking about business, as you can probably tell. So if you and your business think that maybe business coaching is for you, then you can reach out to me, whether that's on an email or you can contact me directly on my mobile or my landline. So my landline is 01992 661 477. You can call me on my mobile number, which is 07709 240 595. Or you can just jump onto our website, which is actioncoachhartford.co.uk. And I'd just love to have a complimentary conversation with you, probably a half an hour discovery call to find out if there is something that we can help with, and just to find out a bit more about your business and to see if there is an opportunity for me to help you. Thank you.
Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.